So here's a bit of a funny story. I got gifted this gorgeous yellow bullet journal for the new year by a friend who knows me well enough to realize that I would absolutely love this gift, but doesn't know me well enough to realize that I actually have the exact same one. Last year, you guys really enjoyed the how-to video I made about designing your own bullet journal that is practical and minimalistic without sacrificing the beauty and the joy of the craft. So this year, since we have a new journal to work with, I thought that I would do a bullet journal tour that would show you how I use my journal in everyday life. The design is almost the same as it was last year, so if you're looking for a set of instructions, you can go check out that video. But hopefully, if you're already into bullet journaling but still can't make it feel natural and easy, this video will help you get past that. Let's begin with the opening page, which I have covered up with stickers for a very good reason. I had an ink stain here and I think I had whiteout here. The wonderful thing about stickers is that they cover up your oopsies. Highly recommended. Next, we have the key, and the key is the one part that I never change. I've been working with this key for like 6 or 7 years, almost since the beginning of my experience with bullet journaling. And if you have not yet found a key that suits you, I implore you, pause and find one, because if the key that you use does not serve your needs, if it's not completely intuitive, if it doesn't allow you to do bullet journaling with zero effort, it's not right for you and it will block you from getting to use this tool to its maximum capability. Bullet journals can be life-changing, but only, and I mean only, if they're an extension of yourself. There needs to be zero friction when you're using them. That's the whole point. They're fully customizable, and you should be able to customize a bullet journal to the point that it serves as your second brain. Cool? Cool. My first page is always aspirations. Basically, these are the values that direct the life and how I live it, the ideals that shape the roadmap that I walk. I encourage you to use the first page for the same reason, and if you are not sure what these values are for you, I have a completely free exercise that I designed for that exact purpose. It's called Your Value Map, and it's a tiny workbook that you can use to uncover your values so that they can serve as a foundation for the life you're trying to build for yourself. There are no correct or wrong answers here. It's about what you value in life, what matters to you. Because as an example, one of my core values is creation and artistic growth. Maybe you don't care about that. If I don't write for more than 2 weeks at a time, I get depressed. I stop functioning, which is why this is a core value for me. I need to be making videos like this one to live a fulfilling life. Maybe you don't, and that is fine. The key is knowing what matters to you. Amazing, let's move on. So normally this section is the future log. I don't like using a future log in my bullet journal. I have a digital calendar for that. And every month when I get to this page, I go to my digital calendar and I copy any relevant parts into the monthly spread. It's a lot more convenient to just shove stuff into your calendar and then export them once a month than it is to constantly have to look at the first few pages for your future log. So instead, the thing that comes immediately after my aspirations are my quarterly goals. Basically, you have ideals that you want to live by, but in order to move towards them, you need to have clear steps. So I divide my years into quarters, 3 months at a time, because that is a time block that works for me. You can use any other time block. It could be 1 month, it could be 1.5, it could be, 10 weeks, who knows? Whatever works for you, whatever time block you feel like you would recognize a significant change in yourself in, that's what you use. And what I design my quarterly goals around are my aspirations. I have 5 values that shape my life. So for each of these values, I mapped one goal. For example, my first quarterly goal is to maintain existing habits when it comes to nutrition, gym, taking walks, and quality sleep. That is because my first aspiration, the first value that I live by, is to maximize my healthy lifespan. It is divided mostly into nutrition and physical activity, but also into other things. I spent the last quarter of 2025 focusing almost exclusively on building healthy habits. I work out 3 times a week, I eat really healthy, I go on walks several times a week, I sleep more than enough, and now my job is to maintain these habits, which is why this is my first quarterly goal. Now that I will split my focus among other goals, I know that this will suffer. My goal is to minimize the damage done to this habit that I've built. That's just an example. Again, I have 5 goals and each one corresponds to one of the values, the ideals that shape my life. Later, these goals are going to be broken down into my weekly and daily habits. So basically, you have the ideals you live by, then you have the quarterly goals that are shaped around these ideas, and then for you to actually make progress, you need to break that apart into really bite-sized steps. For example, go to the gym, which is one of my habits that I track. Those 3 pages work together. They are inherently tied. And the idea is that this page is a really thorough breakdown of everything that has to do with my quarterly goals. And it is so reliable that I don't have to look at these goals more than once a month when I design this habit tracker. Abstraction is the name of the game. I don't want to look at these every time I open my journal. This is my Bible now. And once a month, when I go over the results of my tracking and design a new habit tracker that matches any new needs I might have, that's when I look at my quarterly goals. If, for example, I see that I have not been working out this month, that means that I need to put more focus on that next month to change my priorities around, and when I choose how to do that, I will look at my quarterly goals and decide which one gets priority. That's pretty much the only time that I will look at it, except when I come back to fill in my new goals for the next quarter. Cool. Next. This is one of my favorite sections of the bullet journal and perhaps the most important one. I do this every quarter, but I especially recommend that you do this exercise if you're a new year, new me kind of person. This is how you keep up with your New Year's resolutions. Like for me, this is how I did not fail my resolutions yet. I will get back to that in a second. The first question is, what does the best version of myself look like in 3 months? I detail what that looks like. What do I look like? What do I feel like? What are my relationships like? If you're not sure which parameters to include when answering this question, once again, you go back to your aspirations, the values that shape you. Each of these values is a point in your life that actually matters to you and should be reflected in the answer to the question, what does your life look like? Once you have a clear image of who you are as a person 3 months from today, in the best case scenario, because sometimes life will throw curveballs at you, you attend to the second question. What does an average day in my life look like in 3 months? Now this is the most interesting question. I'll tell you why. Because this person, this best version of myself, she maintains a certain lifestyle in order to live like she does. That's the answer to this question. But the amazing part is, if I start living like this right now, I will eventually become her. You don't even have to build a roadmap on how you get from point A to point B. How do you get from where you are now to the best possible version of yourself in 3 months? You just think, what does her day look like? And you make your day look like this. You will eventually morph into her. You can basically fully remove emotional and mental labor from the equation and make this as clear-cut as possible. I'll tell you where that affects your life. I was so tired yesterday and it was a gym day and I did not feel like going to the gym. My motivation for the new year has already run out and I needed to rely on something else. So this is what I relied on. I worked out yesterday for her. This woman that does not exist yet, I worked out so that she can come into existence. It didn't matter that I didn't want to. This is my Bible now. This is the rules that I follow to live my life. This is what it takes for her to come into existence. The fact that I did not want to work out did not factor into this. Mind you, you have to be careful of burning out when you do this. If you set unrealistic goals, something that you can't follow, it will be painful to follow these habits. But if the amount that you ask out of yourself is reasonable, you will be able to push through even if it's really inconvenient to go to the gym when you don't want to. So once again, if you have not asked yourself these questions since the year began, please pause this video right now and journal about these 2 questions. I will read them again. What does the best version of myself look like in 3 months? And the second question is, what does an average day in my life look like in 3 months? Build your ideal self, shape her lifestyle, and then copy it. With that done, we can finally move on to the first month of the quarter, January. Now, I color code my different kinds of events. I use orange or yellow for anything social and for birthdays, which are always in the corner. I use red for content creation, gray for anything that's just logistics and organization, and pink for self-care. You will see more of that later. I do like to keep this page simple since I do have a weekly spread that we will get to later. It's 2 pages away, since this serves as more of an overview of my month than anything else, right? So, for example, I know that I'm gonna be in Paris for 5 days this month, yay! Which means I can't have any events in that time. For example, book club is gonna be cancelled. Or, since today is January 5th, if somebody invites me to an event 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna have to say no because I know I won't be available that day. By the way, very important note, you may notice that my weeks start on Sunday. That is because while I do not work Fridays, I do work Sundays, and since my work week technically begins on a Sunday, it is much more convenient for me to track weeks this way. That's the beauty of a bullet journal. I talked about this before, but there was a time in my life where I was a student, I studied every day, did not have a set schedule, but I would upload a chapter of my fan fiction every 3 days. So I had a 3-day calendar. I literally did not have a monthly spread. I just had 3 days per page, and that was my cycle. Weird, but that's the amazing thing about bullet journals. They're completely customizable to your needs. Also, with the extra space you get at the edge of a page, I like to add my goals. I've been reading multiple books 1 month and then no books the next, so I really want to try to read at least 1 fiction and 1 non-fiction book every month. Not sure I can make it, but that's my goal right now. Oh, and one last thing, the new bullet journal has 3 bookmarks, as you can see. I like to have 1 in the monthly spread, 1 in the current week, we will get to that, and 1, I actually did not put it in the right place, in the current day's tasks. More on that later, back to business. The next page is the habit tracker, and the habit tracker is divided into sections. Once again, the habits need to reflect what matters to you in your quarterly goals. My first goal has to do with health, and I added in beauty. These are all the habits that I track that have to do with health and beauty, so they come first. Then you have habits that are not daily habits but still deserve tracking, which come after. Then we have my sanity section because mental health is still health. And as you can see, I have not journaled in a few days, but here's my beautiful, beautiful journal, and I'm gonna journal today. That was my daily journal, by the way. This is a bullet journal. This is what I use for organization. This is what I use to maintain my sanity. Very important stuff, highly recommended. Anyway, the next page is where I track my sleep, and then I track my mental and physical health, which includes how I feel physically in yellow, how I feel mentally in purple, and my burnout meter in black. Here's an image from my previous journal of what that looks like when it's complete. Some of you already know this, but I am diagnosed with PMDD, which is notoriously hard to get a diagnosis of, and I got diagnosed because of this graph. As in, I went to the doctor with my bullet journal and showed him that my graph dips drastically the appropriate amount of time before my cycle. Basically, I get major depressive vibes right before it starts, and that's how I got my diagnosis, which was amazing. I got treatment. I'm doing so much better now. Point is, this stuff is useful and it can really affect and improve your life. Habit trackers are not just the stick, they're also the carrot. Yes, you need them as an incentive to actually do your habits, that is the stick, but it's also the carrot. You can see your progress or your hard work at the end of the month. Don't skip that. Take time to appreciate the hard work you did and reward yourself for it. Then finally, we have the creation tracker, in which I track whether I created a video content or written content that day. I'm filming this January 5th, but I am going to fill out this tracker for January 4th so that you guys can see what that looks like. So yesterday, I took my meds, I took my supplements, I did my skincare, but I did not wear sunscreen. I did my skincare at night as well, and I did apply hand cream. I have really dry skin in the winter. Then I did work out, even though I did not feel like it at all. I did not wear makeup, but I am going to give myself a pass on that because I went on a hike. So let's cross that out. I did not eat sweets, even though it was really hard because they were accessible, but I knew that if I would eat them, I would not get enough protein that day, so couldn't do that. For sanity, I did journal, I did bullet journal, and I did focus on my tasks, getting things done. That's the short version I use for that. If you're not familiar with the getting things done method, I recommend checking it out, and if you want me to make a video about it, let me know. I would love to do that. Next, we have sleep. I did not sleep well yesterday at all. I don't know what's happening with my sleep recently. I did sleep well today, so I'm gonna mark that tomorrow. But it's been really rough on me. I don't know what's happening, but I'm starting to get migraines from lack of sleep. Gotta fix that. For burnout, I was not burnt out at all yesterday, but I didn't feel super motivated to create anything either. I think I pushed myself too hard last week and needed a break because today, as you can see, I'm feeling extremely motivated and eager to create, so there's that. For physical health, I was actually in peak condition yesterday. I even had one of the best workouts I've had in a while. Let me just connect the dots. Amazing. And then for mental health, I am extremely hormonal right now. Again, I'm about to start my cycle. It's been rough, you guys. I keep wanting to cry, but I'm not a crying person, so I don't have an outlet for that, which kind of sucks. I really wish I could just cry and get it out of my system. But yeah, there's that. And then I did not write or create video content yesterday, so no changes here. And that's what a day of tracking my habits looks like. Smudging the ink is optional. Thankfully, I can do this. Woo, that's much better. Yay to whiteout. Next is my favorite part of this version of the journal, and that is my weekly tracker. As you can see, the hours that I track on work days are different from the ones that I track on weekends. Because on work days, most of the stuff that I do happens in the evening, and on weekends, most of the stuff that I do happens in the morning and the afternoon. Now, a new addition to this journal as compared to the last one is something that I really enjoy. You may have noticed that the gym and the book club are stick-it notes, because sometimes plans change and I can't go to the gym at 5 p.m. and I have to go at 7, right? So I wanted to be flexible with that, to be able to move my plans around. So events that are flexible are now on stick-it notes and can be shifted around. My writing club, for example, happens every week at the same hour, so it is just marker and pen. As before, orange and yellow are for social stuff. Pink is what I use for self-care. I go to my esthetician this Friday. Birthdays are marked below. And all the logistics and all that kind of stuff are in gray. General tasks that do have timing, for example, picking up the post, which does rely on when the post is open, is just written without marker. I always create the pages for the entire month in advance so that I can add anything. For example, my flight to Paris and back are already on there so I don't forget. Amazing stuff. I also track the number of the week. I actually like that because it shows me how many weeks into the year I am whenever I look. And it gives me context for how much I achieved in what amount of time. Also, look, YouTube video. I try to post every 2 weeks now. I hope that does not make me burn out. But we will see. Maybe I will be able to post more. And then the final page of the current journal is the tasks for every day. For January 4th, which again is yesterday for me, I did pick up the package. I did not pick up my meds. I completely forgot. I did not submit the request at work, and I did not move the doctor's appointment. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to move these to today, Jan 5th, wrong pen. I'm going to migrate these tasks. Friendly reminder that this is what migration looks like for me in my key, and I'm going to add them here. Pick up meds, move my doctor's appointment, and back pay request. Additionally, I have to activate new card, call my insurance agent, and also finalize the presentation that I do for an office enrichment thing. And that is a tour of my bullet journal. That is what using a bullet journal looks like for me. If you have any questions about how to design your bullet journal or the functionalities that are prominent in my bullet journal, please do leave them in the comments below. I promise to respond to every single one. I want the best for you. I want you to be successful. I want you to be organized. I want you to not do any needless mental labor. I want you to thrive. I want 2026 to be your year. I want you to pop off. Please let me be a part of that. Enjoy the view of my old journal and my new journal side by side. I actually think this one did not suffer too much damage, which is pretty impressive. I have used it for a whole year, so good boy. I will link the video in which I show the design of this bullet journal and the process behind it, so if you want, you can go watch that. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!